For the first time since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court will take up a high-stakes case involving abortion. The justices will review a lower court's August ruling that reimposed safeguards on the abortion drug Mifepristone. It comes after several pro-life groups and individuals sued the FDA, arguing the administration did not properly review the drug before approving it and that it continues to endanger women. Arguments are set for the spring, with a decision expected by late June. To break down the case, we go now to Prudence Robertson, host of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Prudence, give us more background on today's Supreme Court announcement.
Catherine, the Supreme Court will consider a Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals decision in which it was determined that safeguards on Mifepristone, which were struck down in 2016, should be reinstated. Among those vital safeguards, one would prohibit the selling and distribution of abortion pills by mail to women without even an in-person doctor visit. Now, President Biden and Danco Laboratories, which makes abortion pills, appealed the Fifth Circuit's decision to the Supreme Court. It's the latest in court battles surrounding Mifepristone. And until the Supreme Court weighs in, these deadly drugs remain available by mail. And the decision in this case come June or July, Catherine, could have far-reaching implications, given that chemical abortions make up for more than half of all abortions currently happening nationwide. And as a reminder, Mifepristone is the first pill in a two-pill chemical abortion regimen. Mifepristone blocks the naturally occurring hormone progesterone, which babies need in the womb to survive. So essentially, Mifepristone starves children in the womb to death. We'll continue to track this case very closely. Back to you.
We turn now to Erik Baptist, senior counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom, who represents the pro-life plaintiffs in this case. Erik, thank you for joining us. How significant is it that the Supreme Court is taking up this case, and what are the potential outcomes of it?
This is a significant case because women's health is in jeopardy, because in particular what the Biden administration did when it authorized mail-order chemical abortion, where now the doctor has been removed from the equation. A woman is not screened before or after she takes drugs that essentially induce labor and delivery in her home, in a dorm room, or in a parent's house, without any medical supervision, without a care or management of this process. So it's important that now we have the nation watching and the U.S. Supreme Court to hold accountable the FDA for its illegal actions. Two courts have already agreed with us, and we look forward to presenting our case to the Supreme Court.
The White House says the Food and Drug Administration was correct in saying Mifepristone is safe and effective. I know you represent medical doctors who have seen the dangers of Mifepristone. How would you respond to the White House's claim?
The White House is simply wrong. Its own FDA says upwards of 5% of women will present themselves to emergency rooms after taking this drug. That's not safe and effective. And our doctors, our clients in this case, are frontline doctors who work in America's emergency rooms across this country. And they have seen firsthand the harm and damage done to women by FDA's chemical abortion regimen. They've had to treat women for severe hemorrhaging and bleeding and other life-threatening conditions. So simply to say that this is safe is false, inaccurate, and frankly dangerous.
Well, to that point, you have been telling us how this case is about safeguarding women and girls. To that point, do you think there is any potential for those who maybe typically advocate for abortion to come and support your argument?
This is one of those issues where I hope that everyone who, no matter what part of the spectrum you fall on, left, right, or middle of the road, can come around and agree with us that women deserve better than what the FDA has given them. Because a woman deserves to be screened for life-threatening conditions before she takes dangerous drugs. She deserves to have care by a doctor before she takes the drugs and follow-up care afterwards. Simply taking all those safeguards away from a woman is not pro-women's health. So I hope people who, no matter where you fall on the abortion spectrum, can come in together and support us in this case.
Erik, for those who are catching up on this case, can you summarize what the legal battle has looked like so far?
We filed our lawsuit just over a year ago on behalf of 4 national medical associations and 4 individual doctors. These doctors have represented and treated and cared for women across this country who've been harmed by chemical abortion drugs. And the FDA has always recognized that emergency room doctors are going to be a big part of the equation because they've recognized that upwards of 5% of women will need to go to the emergency room. And then the FDA has absolved the abortionists from ever having to take care of women for complications after taking these drugs. Our doctors have finally said this, enough is enough. We've been trying to engage the FDA in a meaningful conversation for the last 2 decades to no avail. It's now time for the courts to intervene intervene and to step in and hold the FDA accountable for violating the law. Because when Congress delegated its authority to the FDA to be the nation's drug gatekeeper, it gave specific instructions to the FDA on how to approve a new drug and make changes to a drug regimen. And the FDA failed to follow those directions from Congress, and that's where the courts step in to hold the FDA accountable, like any other federal agency in this city, accountable for failing to follow the law in congressional direction.
Erik, do you have any quick thoughts on what you're expecting from the Supreme Court given today's legal landscape?
We expect a relatively quick turnaround in terms of we have to file briefs, we're going to have oral argument in some part of next year, and a decision by the summer. So things are going to move relatively quickly, but we look forward to engaging the Supreme Court and the American public about our case and talking about what the FDA has done to harm women's health. So we look forward to continuing this conversation across this country and in America's Supreme Court room.
Erik Baptist with Alliance Defending Freedom. Thank you.
Thank you.